Welcome back to the second episode of Just a Couple of Jerks. On this episode, I've sat down with the gentle giant of the ConfigMgr community, Mike Marable. We chat about the essential things in life, like how to make sourdough bread starters, what happens when you go see the Cure in concert, and how to get support from WordPerfect back in the 90s. It was a good chat. It was great to feature Mike on this particular episode, so please sit down and enjoy Just a Couple of Jerks. So I'm here today on the Just a Couple of Jerks podcast with a good friend in the community, Mike Marable. Now, I've pronounced your last name right there, have I, Mike?
Yep, you got it spot on there.
Yeah, it's not Marable or anything like that. Marable. Yeah. Cool. So thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
I was gonna thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. And this is episode 2 of the podcast, and it's going to go out in a couple of weeks' time. But we're sat here in really uncertain times, dreadfully uncertain, with the pandemic that's going on in the world of coronavirus. So I thought it would be worth chatting about early on, Mike, to sort of get a grip, get a feel really for what's happening in your area. So you live out in Michigan way in the States, yeah?
Correct. Yep, out in Michigan, just west of Ann Arbor.
And how is it over there at the moment?
Eerily quiet. I ventured into town this afternoon, and it's weird how deserted everything is. There's nobody out and about. Parking lots are empty. Streets are empty. It's very eerie.
It's scarily so.
Yeah.
We had to pop out earlier because the food situation here is pretty desperate. It's getting the shelves are empty. The food delivery, the stores that are doing the food delivery, they don't have anything in, and it's slightly worrying. So we kind of went out, and we're trying to avoid going out to find bread of all things, and we managed to get a couple of loaves. And we were hoping to maybe get flour. So I've been making bread the last week or so, trying to find flour, completely impossible. Funnily enough, we actually found we've got 2 jars of this stuff in a cupboard of flour. We're like, oh my god, this has been here for a little while. So we've struck gold with that. And but the problem is we don't know what it is. Is it plain? Is it self-raising flour? So we're Googling how to find the difference and work out how you could tell. And there's a little test. I don't know if you know this, Mike. This is new to me. You probably know this. Probably go, oh, yeah, I've done this for years. You do you not know that?
Oh, yeah.
Which was, yeah.
I'm done.
Get ready. So it's just to test it on your tongue. Do you know about this?
No, never heard of that before.
Okay, so I was there earlier with these big jars of flour, dabbing it on my tongue. If it fizzes, it's self-raising because it's got bicarbonate of soda in it. But seriously, I felt like T.J. Hooker testing if he'd arrested someone for possession of cocaine. It was dabbing the tongue. It's like, my God, what have we come to? You know?
Right. You're testing
terrible.
the flour like it's a 1980s police show.
Exactly. So yeah, it's all good. It's plain flour. So I'm currently trying to make some bread out of that. But crikey, it's crazy. And as you know, London hit lockdown a couple of days ago. So it's really is, popping out for essentials.
Right.
So,
yep.
So you've been working from home, I take it, the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm about a week and a half in. We here in Michigan went on lockdown Monday night, so yeah, I feel your pain.
pretty much the same then. Have you got certain restrictions then? Is it a couple of people can go out at once, or what's the lockdown situation there?
It's primarily you're able to go out for essentials. So you can go to, grocery stores. You can go if you're, mechanics are open, grocery stores are open, drugstores are open, things like that. But like everything else is closed. Um,
Mm.
Other than
All the
that, there's
shops then, yeah.
yeah, all the shops are closed. Um, so it's pretty scary. And what
Yeah.
is open is pretty much already been wiped out. So like you're talking about, there's like no bread to be found. There's no pasta to be found. There's no dairy to be found anywhere.
But I believe you've got your own kind of vegetable patch, haven't you? So is that I've seen pictures of this on Twitter. You sort of grow your own things. Is that something that can sustain you? I suppose the vegetables not even ready yet, are they?
Oh no, not even. We don't even have it in the ground yet. We're still.
Right,
We've had a couple of nights that have been below freezing, and it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we can put any vegetables in the ground.
way too
And
early.
then it'll probably be June or July before we start getting loads of vegetables out of it. But we're gonna give it our best shot.
If we're still here for it.
Right.
I didn't realise it. So you're pretty much in the same situation as we are in the UK then, and is that the same for all the states then, or is that just where you are?
It's where we are. I forget how many states are also in lockdown. Um, I think there's probably at least a half dozen of the states here are individually locked down. There are others, particularly out in the Great Plains area, like out west of the Mississippi, where the populations aren't as dense, where there's not as many cases of COVID out there as there are in some of the more populous states.
Hmm.
So it's like each state's kind of doing it, having to do its own thing.
Which leads to inconsistencies at times, I suppose.
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's gosh, yeah, interesting time. So the work from home routine then, what does that entail for you? Um, I
Um,
suppose it's at least you've got rid of that commute, but you'd rather be doing that, I suppose, than being stuck at home or
uh, Honestly, I'm actually loving working at home. It's, I would gladly give up that commute. Um,
right.
I it's taken a little getting used to, but I really find it enjoyable. My stress levels much lower. I feel more energetic. I'm getting to sleep in a little more in the mornings. And I don't have to get up so early to get ready and then drive into town for it. So
It's
I'm
perfect. Yeah.
I'm actually
Have a
enjoying it.
snooze.
Right, take an
We need
afternoon
it.
siesta.
Yeah, yeah, we need it at our age. Um, yeah, I think this might be a problem, might it, down the line? We've had so many people now used to working from home that they're going to come back at the end of it and say, "Well, I've managed to do it for the last X amount of weeks, X amount of months. Why can't I carry that on?" And maybe over time there's going to be a shift. We've got companies are pumping time and effort into their home working solutions now for obvious reasons. So the capacity is going to be there.
Right.
You've
I
got a good case to sort of stay at home now and have that extra snooze. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, there's the company I work for has been a little hesitant about the work from home. It's almost like I've been able to work from home 1 day a week for the last, I don't know, 6 7 months or so. But I think this is going to really kind of open up, and particularly if it goes well, that it's going to show that okay, it is possible. We can trust our staff to work from home full time, or 3 days a week, or 4 days a week, whatever it might work out to be. That I think a lot of employers are going to say, okay, it's not going to be, they're not going to be all goofing off, and this might be something that's viable. And like you said, there's all this investment of the capacity and the infrastructure to allow it to happen. A lot of them are going to be saying, okay, we've already put this money into it, we might as well make use of it. So I think it's going to change a lot
Absolutely.
of things.
Yeah. I think there's a key word you mentioned there. It's trust, isn't it? It's ensuring that management are happy with you doing this, that they can trust that you're doing the work still and not just goofing off, disappearing, putting the TV on for a few hours, and you know, oh, I'll just watch a bit of Jeremy Kyle or whatever it is that's on, and so there's a bit of I'm going to watch Magnum PI for a few hours, whatever. It's I'm showing my age there. It's ensuring that you're cracking on with it. And I don't know if you found, I tend to find I'm more productive at home. There's less distraction. I can still, if I
Yes,
can contact people, get things going, that's all that matters. And I assume you guys are just dialing in, doing video conferencing, audio conferencing, that sort of thing through the day. Yeah, I think that there's potential here. It's building up that trust, and hopefully we'll see more of this happening. We've got the infrastructure in place, and we can just roll with it.
exactly. I mean, they've spent the time and the money on it. They're going to want to get a return on their investment and continue to take advantage of it. And like you had mentioned before, the distractions are so few at home compared to in the office. There's not cell phones going off and pagers going off and things like that. There's it gives you the opportunity to focus on the work at hand and you know get it accomplished a lot more effectively.
So, Mike, what is your role? You're a config manager guy. Is it you do the whole thing? Are you a specialist in one area?
I'm primarily the OS deployment guy. I do I do the OS deployment builds, the in place upgrade process. Um, Essentially anything revolving around the client operating system falls on my shoulders.
You're a lucky man.
Yeah, yeah, very lucky.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that is one of my most enjoyable aspects of config manager. To be honest, the
It is.
OSD section.
It is fun. It's very fun.
And you've taken some of that experience, and you sort of published things on in the community. You've been part of the community for a while now. How long have you been involved with the community?
Oh boy, maybe 4 or 5 years.
And
Oof.
was that starting off with a blog or
Yes.
just sort of gossiping?
Well, I was kind of like poking around in the old TechNet forums and things like that. Um, I'm trying to remember what spurred me on to try a blog. I think if I had just finally convinced myself to just jump in and do it, and I don't know, I just started writing what was interesting to me and the things that it was right around the time that Windows 10. Um, it was before the the general release, so I was doing a lot of playing around with like the early insider previews before 1507 came out, and I just would write about troubles I was running into and things I had to fix and stuff like that, and I don't know, just kind of had fun with it.
I think that's roughly around the same time that I kind of got to know you online, really, because I did I don't know if you remember this. I did a live blog post.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that?
Yep, you were
This
doing
was
the live blog, doing the OS upgrade from one build to
yeah.
another, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So this was an attempt to live live post an in place upgrade, wasn't it? From
Yep.
and this was Config Manager 2012 days. So we got that imported task sequence that Microsoft developed, and then it was right. Okay, now we're going to run an upgrade, and how do we do it? And
Yep.
I was kind of getting bored of all these blog posts that always work, and there's never an issue. And this is what I like about the Intune guys. I spoke to Adam Gross last week, and the Intune.training. They were talking about where things that go wrong, and they try not to edit the videos and that sort of thing. And I kind of mentioned this blog post where um, I went through steps of okay, do this now, do that, and you were sat at the other end watching this thing happen, and I don't think anyone else was. So it was like, I've got an audience, hooray! Someone cares out there.
Oh, I'm sure he had quite an audience on it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, he's got it wrong. Why has
Oh
that
wait,
not worked?
wait,
What's
along.
he
This
doing?
isn't going to work.
Yeah.
We
Why is he doing that? Is he got, yeah, and it did fail. But the good thing was that it did fail, and I still know why it failed because I was using, well, it was one of the things didn't match, did it? It was something like the language or
Yep.
the
It was the
architecture
language.
was wrong. No, you remember exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I
and you
remember.
went off and did it on the evening. Obviously, I'd gone to bed. I'm 5 hours ahead or whatever, and you were
Right.
able to get it working
Yeah, it was. I was like,
and
oh,
show
I'm
me
gonna
up.
figure this out.
Rightly so.
I go, here's Paul's. Put it all out there, and I'm gonna make sure this thing works for him. And yeah, we traced it down to just it was the language was wrong. I think you were using like originally
Yeah,
the
yeah,
UK was your base install, then your upgrade media was like US English or something.
yeah.
And it,
And oh, right. There's some prereqs, there's some caveats. We got. You can't just fudge this thing through. And
right.
yeah, and now I quote what they all are every time I go on customer sites to say you've got to have this, and this. And if you don't get it right, it doesn't work. But
And
I think
you know it from personal experience.
absolutely, and your assistance. And I think we'd kind of been online together a bit before, but that's the first time. You were kind of in the background, and I'm sure we knew each other before that, and we were hoping, and we may get that opportunity this year to present at MMS. It's looking a little bit more doubtful with the climate and the situation. So we were due, or are due, depends what happens here, to present together. We've got a
Yep.
couple of sessions. So run us through yours. So yours is around IPU again. Obviously, don't do the presentation now because we won't be able to do it at MMS. But give us
Well,
a general overview of what we're going to be talking
okay. Well, my first slide here is no. It was
yeah,
we're going to focus on how to take statistics coming out of your in-place upgrade sequence and manipulating it and well, I suppose manipulating is probably a bad way of putting it, but presenting it with Power BI to show, you know, to help answer all those questions that management would have had. Things like, how long does the upgrades take? How successful are they? What sort of failures are we seeing? That sort of thing. Start detecting some trends on things that you might need to look at and fix.
yeah, capturing that information and being able to use it and from that information was it a case of we could then we've seen what it is and then we can apply fixes and as in that's what it is and we've seen a trend here, is that, or am
Right.
I getting that wrong? Yeah,
Nope. That's what we were hoping to do.
yeah, I could do with that information actually, so we'll have a chat later. No, but I was looking forward to that, and then we were going to have myself and yourself again doing a session around Windows 10 kiosks
Right.
and how to deploy these via ConfigMgr via Intune, whichever method, and then talk about where things go wrong, go right, notes from the field effectively. So
Yeah, I was
that's
looking
still
forward
on
to that.
track. It's whether
I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm
Well,
really
it's not over till the fat lady sings, is it? So who
right.
knows?
Yeah, because we got a
Um,
bunch of stuff at where I work that we could take advantage of that. I'm sure.
yeah, and we're getting
Nope.
numbers racked up to for attendees as well. So that's got pushed back to July, and it's whether people can still do that. Depends on the restrictions in place and things like that. But
Right.
we've never met, have we? We've never physically met, and this was the
Nope.
first opportunity to potentially do that, and we're looking forward to that. So hopefully that can happen. But we've had a couple of chats online now, and we're always chatting on Twitter.
Stupid
But what
virus.
yeah. I thought you meant Twitter had been a virus, but yeah, no,
No.
it's yeah. Hey, oh
Yeah,
no, what's this?
we finally got MMS lined up, and then what do you know?
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah,
we get hit with a worldwide pandemic. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
come on, talk
Jeez,
about the
jeez.
stars aligning against us.
Well, it's the key thing is that this thing doesn't go crazy,
Right.
and everyone stays safe throughout. Okay, let's skip back, Mike. Let's go back a few years. Let's talk about the young Mike now. I think little kid. What's his ambitions in life? Is it to be a config manager, OSD guy? Is that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
I remember
where the money is.
way back in the way back in the day. Yeah. No, I wanted to be a pilot of all things.
Pilot.
Yeah.
Okay. How far did that get?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Well, it was a pipe dream, and then in high school, I don't know if in the UK they have this, but like again back in the day in high school, they'll have recruiters from the Air Force and the Marines and the Army will come into the high schools, and they'll give you the elevator pitch. You want to come
Hmm.
join the Marines because these are all the great things you can accomplish in the Marine Corps, or you want to join the Air Force because this is all the great things you can do in the Air Force. And the recruiters are in the schools talking to you about that. And they ask, well, what are you interested in? I said, well, I like to be a pilot. And they said, well, that's fine, except you wear glasses. And they start talking about, you can't really be a fighter pilot with glasses and all that sort of thing. And so the Marine Corps crushed my dream.
Jesus, that's dream shattered instantly, isn't it?
Yeah. I
No,
was like,
no consideration whatsoever for your feelings.
yeah, nothing at all.
No, you can't do it.
Nope,
Tough.
can't do it.
Oh, did they give you any, counselling or just left you in a heap
They just left me.
crying?
They're like, well,
Jeez.
sorry, next,
Yeah, move on.
move on.
Oh, so how quickly were you able to get over that, and move on in life?
Fairly well, I guess. I mean, I kind of,
Yeah.
after high school, I thought, okay, I can't be a pilot. I kind of went into architecture for a little while. I figured, oh, I'm going to design buildings. And that lasted about a semester in college when I realized I didn't have the creative talent for designing buildings.
Did you know what was involved there, or?
Um, a little bit, it just I didn't have the artistic talent. Is what it boiled down to. I wasn't a very artistic person to create things like that. So I figured, all right, I'm kind of lost. I don't know what to do. This was the late '80s, so I figured, well, maybe I can be an accountant. I'll take an accounting class. I'll take a business class, and oh yeah, intro to computers is a requirement for pretty much every degree now. I'll take that, get it out of the way, and I got hooked. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm a computer science major. This is what I want to do, and I've been in computers ever since.
From fighter pilot to IT.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, well, we have to adjust those dreams. And, Adam wanted to be an astronaut. What did I want to do? I I have no idea. I didn't know. That was half the problem. I remember the careers person coming to the school and saying, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh, I'll be a journalist." And they said, "So, what's your interest in it?" I was thinking, absolutely none at all. But I took that home with me and I said to my dad, I'm going to be a journalist. And why? Why? Really was just answering questions. So I really struggled to kind of get myself going on a path to anything really. Um, I don't know why, but it takes time, doesn't it? I mean, I totally can understand people who really don't have a clue on what they
Yeah,
want to do. It wasn't really until I got to university when I was doing some computer sciencey bits, which I found frustrating. I wasn't really sort of digging the programming side of things. It wasn't working for me, and then sort of Windows came out. And I said, "Oh, I can drag things around and copy paste, and it's got some windows and makes sense to me." So that's kind of where I got kind of stumbled into IT. So the stuff you were doing though, what was it really? The computer science, was that programming?
yeah. I did a lot of COBOL programming. So I would,
COBOL.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That comes in handy now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I did Pascal programming, so yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
mean, I like to think that it's you know converts to PowerShell easily, but yeah,
Is COBOL one of these? It's probably not, is it? I don't know. Is it one of these object orientated ones? I don't know.
oh boy,
Is
wow.
it top down programming, or
Phew, I couldn't tell
can you
you.
even remember a
I
line of it?
could not.
No.
I could not remember a line of it.
Ah, all I
It,
remember back in the day was BBC Basic, and we'd go to the shops, we'd type in 10 print, then you put some obscenity
oh
into the
yeah.
line, and then your 20 go to 10, and then run it, and then
Yep.
disappear and run away, sort of giggling.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember those days.
And I remember typing in on a Dragon 32, please work, um, and that didn't do anything at all. So it didn't. I was only about 10. Just wanted it to
You're
play a game ultimately.
just a little rascal, weren't you?
Yeah, it's causing trouble in the shops. Yeah, so from that, then did it take a while to get into to IT as a career path, or was there a little gap there, and you were sort of doing
Um,
other things? How did that spin out?
Not really. After college, I got a job working at a company doing help desk work for WordPerfect. So
Oh wow,
yeah, and this was like back in the day when WordPerfect offered tech support free and clear. You didn't have to prove that you bought the software. It just anybody could call up. So we would have people that would call up and like, yeah, I copied the discs from work. I brought it home and installed it, and I'm having problems printing. And we just have to help them. You know, we'd have people tell us that essentially, yeah, we pirated this, but you know, can you help me? Can you help me set my
can you help me
margins?
now? Because there's no manual with this.
Right.
Effectively, yeah.
Well, if you look in the manual, it'll tell you. Well, I don't have the manual because I just got a copy of
Yeah.
these from my buddy.
Wow,
Yeah,
times have changed, yeah.
definitely.
And those heady heights moved you on to something else. Were you doing that for a while?
Yeah, I kind of did that for a bit, and the company was contracted by WordPerfect to do the support, and then they also had um, consulting businesses and stuff like that. So eventually, I uh, did contract work for a company called Borders Group Inc. They were a big bookstore here in the U.S. They at one point they were running, I think it was Books Etc. in the UK.
Hmm. I've heard
So,
of Borders as well. We do have Borders here, yeah. If they still exist, I don't know.
no, they fortunately don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They were. I got brought in as a contractor doing desktop support for them, and um, did that for about a half a year, and got hired on full time. Um, Moved up within that company, from desktop support to doing server support, and I was like one of their you know server IT guys for a number of years before I moved over to the University of Michigan Health System.
And that's where you've been since then.
Yep, 15 years now.
15 years. Yeah, I'm terrible. I freelanced for 20 years, and the longest I've ever done a permanent job is 18 months. So 15 years to me sounds a long time, but it doesn't.
It
It
go,
isn't really, is it? It
it goes
flies.
fast. It goes real fast. It's like one day you're like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean it's my 15-year anniversary? Where did the
Yeah,
time go?
yeah. Gosh, and yeah, actually, I did do a particular contract for about 4.5 years. I was longer than most of the guys who were permanent, and it was tricky to leave at the end. It was kind of a real good bunch of people. Um, just round the corner as well. I was 10 minutes away from the house,
Oh, isn't that nice?
and yeah, and the kids are growing up as well. So quality of life's pretty cool. Yeah, good social, all that kind of stuff. And then um, it was time to move on, but it was tricky to do that because I'd been there for a while and built up quite a good few friendships there. Having said that, I was actually there four times with the bouncing back like a kind of boomerang as such. I think I was pretty sick of me by the end of it, but Yeah, it's tricky. You're there for a long time. You kind of it's day in day out with these people. Um, are you one of the longest serving guys there, or is it they're all pretty similar, comparable time scales?
I'm one of the old guys on the team. Yeah, I think I'm.
Young at heart.
Yeah, young at heart. I like to tell people, really, I'm only 25. The gray hair comes from work.
Yeah, it's the stress.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I was thinking earlier of this Mike in the '80s. This little kid. Um, I'm picturing you now, and then picturing this little guy who's probably I think I'm trying to guess. I think I know some of your musical taste, but I think you're a kind of you're a rocker type guy.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, so what's your musical style, Mike? What stuff are you into?
These days or back then?
Well, I tend to find it's the same stuff, really, hasn't you?
Well, actually,
I'm stuck in the early '90s. I was really into the Seattle grunge scene, so I haven't moved on from that too much.
well, I'm actually a convert. Um, Back when I was in my youth, I was a big heavy metal fan. I mean, Kiss, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath. Even some of the hair bands in the '80s, like Van Halen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like you said, a rock and roll guy.
Def Leppard.
Yep, Def Leppard.
Sheffield's
Quiet.
finest. That's from the same county as me,
Well, there you
just down
go.
the road from where I grew up. Yeah, yeah,
You guys used to hang out together, right?
that's right. And we know them all. Yeah,
Yeah.
them and the Arctic Monkeys. They went to the same sixth form as me, but 10 or 20 years later, God knows what.
And then, yeah, like I said, I was always a heavy metal guy. And then I met my wife, and she was a huge Cure fan. So over the last, over the years here, I've slowly converted from heavy metal to, OMD and Cure and New Order and Depeche Mode and all that. It's like,
You're an
you know, I,
'80s synth guy now, yeah.
I'm an '80s synth guy.
It's still '80s music, isn't it? But
Yeah,
it's a changing genre.
right. I've gone from
Yeah,
the guitars to the synthesizers.
yeah. My wife, they were over in Northern Ireland a couple of months ago, and they were driving around, and she texted me and said, "Check out." Basically, it's the BBC Radio One or Two, Radio Two. Check out Joe Wiley, who's a DJ. So I pop her on, and there's a request comes out for her and the kids in the car and her brother. The Cure, just like heaven.
Oh,
So
beautiful tune.
yeah, yeah. They were going crazy in the car, and yeah, I was listening away here, and I think I sent you a link one time because one of my favourite bands, Dinosaur Jr., did a cover of that song.
Yep.
It's a little bit more abrupt, a little bit more noisy at times, but it's still a decent enough cover. And
Noise is good.
noise is good, yeah, yeah. But the Cure themselves, I saw them live, Wembley Arena back in the early noughties. My wife was pregnant with our first child at the time, and we suddenly realised about an hour before the gig was starting that we bought these tickets 6 months before. And we're like, oh my god, it's tonight! So we just jumped, in the car, got down to the underground, got ourselves up to Wembley, and watched them. But we had to leave early. Unfortunately, my eldest was kicking away in her tummy.
Oh,
Um, they were pretty loud.
yeah, they are.
Have you seen them live?
I saw them once. I think it was probably. I think it might have been right at 2000, 2001. I think.
Yeah, probably
That
around the same time.
Yeah, it
The
was.
Blood Flowers tour, was it?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Oh God, where did the time go?
yeah, yeah. So it's only the other week, wasn't it?
Yeah,
wasn't that long ago? It's only yeah. Hold on, 20 years ago. Crikey.
oh man,
Yeah, yeah. That baby is now at university. Pretty scary. Yeah, but I
Paul,
seem
this
to
is all
remember
making me feel very old here today.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, tell me about your interests outside of growing old, Mike. So they're pretty decent live. I would seem to remember one of the guys, doing the typical rock star pose with his legs spread out, the guitar going crazy. He's got all the leathers on and everything. And I was just thinking, Jesus, man, you're about 50 years old. Grow up.
and
And here I
here we are
am.
now.
Yeah, just got the leathers on. Yeah, definitely. So, Mike, do tell me about your interests outside of the IT world, beyond the music.
Oh boy. Well, you had mentioned the vegetable patch we have. My wife's a huge gardener, so I've kind of
Yeah,
been picking up on that. Um,
because I do like you post the pictures on Twitter. Do like seeing those coming through. It's like, oh, we've just done that. Because I attempted it one year and I think we got some stuff out of it the first year. The second year, it became part of the kids' football pitch.
hmm,
Didn't really get going that
did get going that time.
one. No.
Yeah.
So we pulled out. We dug a little vegetable patch, and it was all right for one year. Funnily enough, my second boy wants us to do it again this year. But yeah, is it something that it takes your time? You enjoy doing it, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely does. We got the vegetables. My wife also grows. She's got gardens of flowers and all sorts of things, and um, particularly in the spring when stuff starts blooming, and before the work from home thing going on, all this going on, I would come home from work and I would look forward to getting the garden tour of all the new things that were blooming, and look, the crocus are starting to pop up out of the ground, and the lilies are starting to to bloom and all that. And then the deer would come along and eat it all, but at least for a couple of days I got to enjoy it.
Now you're sick of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like God,
Stop. So I'm just
the
sitting here
bloody
like looking
garden
out the
again.
window going, come on,
Yeah, grow.
grow.
I just want to
Greenery,
see
come
something
on.
different. Yeah, and you do a lot of photographs. You take a few walks out, and you take some pictures of is it animals you've seen along the way on your
Um,
travels.
yeah. There's where I live, like I said, out west of Ann Arbor, kind of out in the farmland, I guess. And there's a lot of woods and bogs and things that my wife and we enjoy going for hikes out there. And yeah, it'll be great. It would just pictures of hawks and deer and turtles running all across the trail and stuff like that. And to me, it helps kind of put things in perspective. I could have a lousy day at the office, and after about a 45-minute walk out in the woods, and hey, look at that deer over there. It kind of helps settle things, help kind of let go of the stress and anxiety of the office.
Yeah, it's kind of it's reality, isn't it?
Right.
It's nature doing its thing. Um, I live on the outskirts of London, so we don't quite get that here. We might see a fox roaming round the garden, and then we all go and look at that bloody fox. Shoo it
Or
away
what is now the
quick.
football pitch.
Yeah. Get out the goals. But yeah, it's we don't have that luxury. If so particularly now we're hemmed in effectively. I've got the
Right.
garden at the back, which is perfect really for now, and it gives me an opportunity to sand the patio, table sets, and things like that. So I've been doing this week to while away the boredom.
Right.
But if we want to step out, we've got to travel. We've got to go out a fair few 20 miles or so out of London to really capture that sort of scene. Um, Back as a kid, growing up in Yorkshire, we have a lot more of that kind of the thing. You're nearby, really, but I kind of miss that. But it's great for you just to have to step out and see that stuff straight away. And is that the kind of similar kind of environment that you grew up in, where you kind of, or have you always been out in the country?
No, actually, I I grew up um, in some suburbs, probably about 20 miles north of Detroit, um, Sterling Heights and Romeo area, and it was all like malls and shopping centers and divided highways and busy streets and all that. Um, and I mean, there was really nothing nothing nature-wise out there. Unfortunately, it's like the developers had like bought old farms and just bulldoze everything flat and put in subdivisions. And it's kind of a shame. So I don't know. I enjoy it out here in the country, to be honest.
And was that a decision with yourself and your wife to move out that way, or was it a job bet thing, or?
Well, the job thing brought me out here, and my wife was already out here, and that's where I met her. Um, she had already been living out here, and the job at Borders brought me out here to the Ann Arbor area, and that's where she and I met, and that's where I fell in love with the countryside.
Yeah, I mean, I see the photographs and I'm not jealous in the slightest.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, no, it. I just think, phew, who wants to live out there? Crikey. But
Trees and all that.
gosh, all those bloody animals. But no, well, just when you take photographs when it's snowing, I'm like, God, I love it when it snows. It's great, and then obviously it makes it so picturesque and scenic, particularly in the countryside. And to have all that at your doorstep is just fantastic, really.
It is nice.
And Ann Arbor. So we were comparing photographs a while back of my hometown, which is Barnsley up in Yorkshire, and Ann
Hmm.
Arbor. Was it Ann Arbor we were looking at the photographs of? I'm getting that right.
Yep, Ann Arbor. Yep.
Yep. Okay, so we had some similarity in landscape. It seemed to be. We have in Barnsley we have this town hall
Hmm.
that dominates the skyline, and there's a bit this in the hills a little bit, not too hilly, but yeah, it's. And then Ann Arbor has this similar kind of white tower, which I
Right.
can't remember what that's for
It's
again.
a
So remind me of that.
it's a clock tower in the campus of the University of Michigan. Um,
Okay, so that's
yeah,
right where you're working then, yeah.
pretty darn close. The college campus is pretty much interwoven throughout the whole city of Ann Arbor, and then the health system is kind of an offshoot of the university. That kind of we have the main hospital is like out in the outskirts of Ann Arbor itself. So
And Ann Arbor itself is the industry wise. What's it all about there? So Barnsley, to go into the history of that briefly, it was a coal mining community until the 80s when the whole industry got shut down. That decimated the town. It's never recovered from that. So what's Ann Arbor about?
um, the University of Michigan, really.
That,
Um,
really? Okay.
Really, yeah. There's some um, there's a lot of tech jobs out here. Google have an office in downtown Ann Arbor. There's a lot of IT shops and businesses around Ann Arbor. But the big thing is the university. A lot of us we joke about the population of Ann Arbor, like doubles or triples every fall when all the students come into the for the beginning of the fall term, and the population drops at the end of the spring term when they all go home for summer. So,
Yeah.
and it's
And
like I said, all the campus buildings and classrooms and dormitories they're peppered throughout the entire city. So like next door to the Starbucks is the science building where the science labs are for the chemistry students. It's it's pretty wild.
and Detroit, obviously. Well, is that? I'm going to get this wrong now. It's going to show my ignorance. Cars, motor
Yep,
industry. Yeah.
Motor City.
Is that still the case, or I'm sure I read somewhere was it the BBC recently where it talked about Detroit had declined. It'd been in decline for quite a long time, or
Yes, it has. It's still the center of all the automotive. I mean, all um, the big three have all their main corporate headquarters either in Detroit or in the cities surrounding it. But Detroit itself, yeah, it's been in decline for a long time. It's starting to bounce back. They're trying to bring in um, some additional businesses and things like that. So it's starting to make a comeback, but it's been pretty rough for a while.
yeah, I think they have that. Is it the former railway station building
Hmm. This
that's
giant
derelict?
giant
She
building.
looks absolutely huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back
And
when
they're going to renovate that, or
yep, they're working on renovating it. It dates back to the heyday of rail travel around here, back when the the train stations used to be, these beautiful, fancy, elaborate, um, buildings, where, um, there are all sorts of, a lot of effort was put into it. It wasn't just some sort of utilitarian place. You showed up and got the train there. It was,
mm,
a lot of work went into the architecture to make it, a place that looked nice while you were there. And looking nice is an understatement. This building used to be absolutely stunningly beautiful,
mm.
and they're working on renovating it. They're gonna bring it back. I mean, the rail travel is not real big around here anymore, but so there's a
I
lot
think
of
that's is that what killed it? The fact that rail travel's kind of stopped. It stopped being serviced by people coming in, or
right. Um, there was a lot of of people moving out of the city into the suburbs, particularly as the automotive industry started moving some of um, their offices and facilities out of the central downtown Detroit area. And they started moving them into, Auburn Hills and Pontiac and some of the outlying cities surrounding it. A lot of the jobs moved out, so people moved out to follow.
to Pontiac. Is that named after? Is that the car named after that place? Is that
Yes, it's named after a Native American.
okay?
Hmm.
I know nothing about cars. Yeah, absolutely nothing. that's
That's I get into mine, I turn the key, and it starts. That's
that's
about
all
my
you
limit.
need. I get into mine. I turn the key. Nothing happens. I spend a fortune getting the damn thing fixed. I try it again. Few months later, it does the same thing. What the hell's going on there? That's a Ford car for you. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'm not a car fan, but no, I'm interested to hear about the history of Detroit, and I've seen some pictures of that building, and I'm sure I saw pictures of when it was in its heyday, and it did look amazing. Um, it's that time, isn't it? That period of time where they just spent an absolute fortune doing these places and doing them right. Um,
right,
things like the Titanic, the detail that went into that, the amount of money spent on that. Um, we have the Midland Hotel at St Pancras, the train station there, and they renovated that over the last few years and transformed that. But back in its day, it's unbelievable. Now it's all made out of sort of bits of cardboard and tape and
right,
as cheap as they can. There's no sort of gold and decals or sort of gargoyles on the end of the building there. It's all sort of plasterboard and painted up very quickly and cheaply.
right.
But when was that thing shut down? Do you know, or
Oh boy.
was it something you'd been inside while it was kind of?
No, unfortunately
No.
not. I believe it was probably shortly after World War II. Um, I
Just a
think that
while
was,
back.
yeah, a while back, a little before my time.
Yeah, yeah. We're not that old. Okay, Mike. So tell me, there's another interest, and we mentioned it earlier, and I want to talk to you about this because obviously with the situation at the minute, we're all doing what we can, and we're I've gone back to making bread, which I used to do a while back, and my bread is pretty desperate. It's well, not desperate. I can do a tin loaf. So people go, wow, and they see it and they get really impressed by it. But I know you're a bit of a sourdough fan.
Uh, I wish I could claim that I'm the baker, but not really. My wife, yeah, she's my wife's a fantastic cook and a baker, and we've gotten on a kick of baking sourdough bread. Um, my job is to feed the sourdough starter every day, and I kind of help out in the kitchen. But if left to me, I would probably end up starving to death if I had to cook for myself. I would either
That
I would either
starter would be dead, yeah.
yeah, I myself am a terrible cook, a terrible cook. So like I said, if left to my own means, I would either starve to death because I can't cook anything, or I would just be at McDonald's 4 times a day.
Not a good time at the moment. They're all shut.
Right. Yeah. So I'd be on the verge of starving now if it wasn't for her and her cooking.
So
But
tell me
yeah,
about the starter, because I'm interested in this, because I thought it was something you just did for a little while, but just until you got the kind of the I don't know, a few days or something, and then you could just chuck it into the mix with your dough or whatever. And obviously, you don't need the yeast using the starter, but
right,
this thing lives the bacteria in it lives for God knows how long by the sound of it. So
right.
how is it prepared? How long can
Well,
it survive for? What exactly do you have to do? Because I want to learn this.
well,
It's nothing to do with you know. This is a selfish question, and anyone else who listens gets the benefit of this.
well, it's a new MMS presentation here. We'll do
This is next year's, right? We can't
yeah
divulge this information.
bread baking 101.
How to make bread the Marable way.
Right. Well, the sourdough starter is, like I said, when you're baking bread with the sourdough, it's not, you don't have to have yeast, because what it's the bread is relying on is the natural yeast found in flour.
Yeah.
So what the starter is yeah, essentially you start it with flour and water, and you kind of mix it into a paste, and you just let it sit,
Nothing
and
else.
nothing else.
Like you
And
can
then
tell
what?
I'm running out of yeast here, can't you?
Yeah,
This is valuable information. I've got so much yeast left. I haven't got much flour, but
right.
yeah, we can try it.
So then over the course of, when you first start, you feed it like twice a day, and so like every 12 hours, over the course of the 12 hours, the native yeast to the flour begins to react with the water, and it starts growing, and it will your starter will increase in volume. And then after 12 hours, you take part of it, and you mix it with an equal part of flour and water, and you let that go for another 12 hours, and then
Uh,
you just keep
Did,
repeating that cycle.
did you? I can't remember if you said that. Did you? Are you covering this? Are you? Is it in some?
Yes.
Is it contained in something? Yeah.
You put it in some kind of container, and with a cover on it, and it could just be a towel over top, or you know aluminum foil over the top, or something like that, to keep it from drying or anything like that. And then, like I said, when it comes time to bake it, okay, I'm going to bake the sourdough bread.
Hmm.
You feed it in the morning, and then a few hours later, after it's had some time to process the native yeast, you chuck it into your dough, and mix it up and bake it into bread. So you could, I mean, if you want to, you could just say, okay, I'm going to start this sourdough starter with the end result is I want to make a loaf of bread and be done with it. Or what we're doing is we have it, and we just keep it going, day after day after day. We make a loaf of bread tomorrow. We can make breadsticks 3 days from now. All coming off of this same starter that we're maintaining.
So how long? So the starter you got at the minute, then how long's that been going for?
About 2 months.
Jesus. I thought it'd be a few days. No, a few weeks. No, 2 months,
Two
and
months.
that will just carry on. So you could just keep feeding that
Yep. Which is
indefinitely.
right. So essentially, I have it'll be like a half cup of I'll take a half cup of um, the starter, and I'll mix it with a half a cup of water and a cup of flour, and that'll be the starter for the next day. And then over the course of 24 hours, that will grow from roughly 2 cups to 4.5, or 5 cups of sourdough that you can then put into, you can take a portion of it and put it into baking a couple loaves of bread.
Okay, and and how much is so when you make the loaf? Say you've got I don't know. Are you in grams in the states? Or are
We
you in
can
you're not? Yeah,
um,
you're not in pounds, are you? Or are you in pounds, ounces?
pounds and ounces. Generally, a lot of the recipes we've been working with have been measuring in cups and teaspoons and tablespoons.
Okay, so
So
I use so I'm just going to go back to grams because I don't know anything else. I'm stupid on this, but no, actually, 500 grams of flour will make a loaf for me, which is about a pound of flour. Does that
Um,
does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So if
trying to
I were
come up
to
with a
do
conversion
that,
here.
yeah, go on, quick, Google it.
Quick Google.
Yeah,
So 500 grams of flour, you said. So that's
yeah, yeah.
about
That's for a tin loaf. Yeah.
so that's about 2 cups. A
Okay.
little over 2 cups.
And is that what? So that's to make the dough, yeah?
Right.
Or would that be too much for a sourdough?
Um. Well, usually, like I said, when you get started, you'll start with even. See, like I said, I'm an amateur, so I'm using the cups and
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it
measurements.
works.
It works. Yeah, I'm holding my own, I guess. Um, but generally, they the real bakers will do it all by weight. So they'll generally say about you'll start with like 100 grams of you'll take 100 grams of your starter, which is about a half cup. Add to it 100 grams of flour, which works out to be I guess about a cup, and then 100 grams of water. So you got like equal weights of the three of the prior starter, water, and flour, and you mix all that up, and that's what then grows for the next 24 hours, and then gets put into your bread loaf. Usually, you'll take in the recipes. It will take about, I think it's about 3/4 of a cup. I think of the sourdough starter, which is I think about 150 grams maybe,
Hmm.
and that'll go in with you know the regular unbleached flour, and the other ingredients for whatever style of sourdough bread you're going with, and that'll usually create two loaves of bread, each one roughly the size of a soccer ball.
Wow. I'm gonna have to do this, aren't I? I can't. I've got to deviate from continual tinned loaves, which are great, and they're feeding us at the moment. But I've got to be a bit more creative and try something new. So I'm going to give this a shot.
It is fun, and it
Oh,
makes great if you do like grilled sandwiches. The sourdough
yeah.
is bread is fabulous for like grilled sandwiches, or if you're
Oh,
going to do
yeah,
like
yeah,
a French toast or something in the morning. Oh, it makes
yeah,
fabulous French toast.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just love when I've got the tin loaf and I've just baked it and take a slice off and I'll just chuck on some butter and some jam
Oh
and
yes,
that's just like, oh man, that's heaven, isn't it? It's like
it is.
I need to save some of this loaf for the morning. I'm just tucking into it, and oh, it's terrible.
You're thinking,
It's everyone wants a slice.
just one more slice.
Yeah,
Just
just,
one more.
just rip the thing apart, and
Yeah,
you know, oh, it's all gone. But I
yeah.
can imagine. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a go. And what I'll do, mate, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a try. It could be a disaster. But I'm hoping it's going to work, and I'm going to ask you questions as I'm doing it.
Yeah, no problem.
And then I'm going to try and bake a loaf and see what happens. And because it never goes right that first time. I remember the first tin loaves that I made, and they were just effectively bricks. They didn't rise or anything. Yeah, and it's learning from that. It's like, all right, I've got to get air into this thing. How do I do that? What's the method?
Right.
Um, you know, punching the bread, the dough as it's risen, and then just kneading it again and getting it right is all part of it, and it all comes with practice, as anything,
Yeah, it
to get it
does.
right. So I'm gonna have a go. You're inspiring me to do it.
Oh, great. And if it doesn't work, it's my fault.
Yeah. In fact, I might have to wait until the flour shortage is out of the way. I've just wasted the flour on the starter, but yeah, running out of yeast, so I might have to take you up quicker, sooner rather than later.
Your family's like, "What are you doing, Paul?
Yeah, yeah. You've used how much flour?
What did that crazy Yankee tell you to do? What's going on?
Yeah, you
That's all
threw
of
it
our
in the
flour."
bin. Yeah, yeah. No, but no, I'm definitely going to give it a try. So we'll see how that goes. So to go back to IT then, diverting across now very quickly into another topic. But to go back to IT, we talk about trying something out for the first time. You've done the blogging for a while.
Hmm.
So now remind me that your blog is sccmf12twice.com.
Correct.
And
Um,
that's through an OSD reference, isn't it?
yes. It's a blog site originally put together by Chris Buck, and he has like a small team of folks that write blogs for the site. And this past, I think it was December, I uh, I kind of tested the waters and asked him. He was like, "Sure, go ahead," and he let me join the team, and I've been writing on it ever since. You know, as if I've been writing there for years now. But no, it's been about 3 months I've been writing on that blog.
And you've also presented.
Hmm.
So I'm keen to get a feel for that first presentation, Mike. Because was your first one at MMS, or did you
No,
present prior to that?
I my first presentation was at a user group, the Michigan System Center user group. They operate here on the southeast side of Michigan. Um, it was, oh boy, it's fall of 2018, I think. So just about a year
And
and a
what
half
was your
ago.
okay? And what was your presentation on?
Um, in-place upgrades, the Windows
Okay,
as a service. It was
hey, stick with familiar ground. Keep
yeah,
keep it safe, keep it simple.
right,
Talk about what you know,
exactly.
particularly on your first presentation,
Yeah. Oh
because
boy.
how was it? What was going on in your head as you kind of, if you can remember, just
Oh, it
going up to do that presentation? How many people were out there? Was it
thousands,
like 30 or so?
thousands.
Thousands, God.
It felt like thousands. No, it's, like I said, there might have been about 30 people there, but it
There's
was my
30
first.
people
Yeah,
all
that's
looking at
30
you.
people all looking at you, and
Mm.
I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified. I had a I've always had a fear of public speaking, getting up in front of people and doing things. Um, it goes back in high school, with bad experiences, but I was terrified. And before doing it, I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, "You can do it. Just do it.
Mm.
I've confidence in you. You can do it." I finally said, "All right." I got in touch with the user group folks, and like, sure, come on out. We'll have you speak. And whew, like I said, I was terrified.
So it
It
was
was it
kind of
was
reminding you of those days back at school, sort of standing up in front of the class. Was it that kind of thing, that
Yeah, yeah,
comparing it to that, sort of freaking out? Everyone's looking at me.
right. Because back in high school, I sang in the school choir, and it was it was my senior year in high school, so I was like 17, and we had to do, like we it was an actual class, so we had to be tested. So we'd be tested on our different singing parts.
Mm.
So the director pulled myself and a tenor and a soprano and alto up and stood us in front of the class and said, "Okay," they had the accompanist played the intro, and it happened to be, the part that he selected. I was going to be the first person, that opened would sing. Pianist plays the intro, comes to my part, squeak, nothing comes out, and
Nothing.
nothing. I totally choked,
Nothing.
and then of course
Yeah,
the whole class is staring at me. Okay, try it again.
that helps.
Choked a second time.
Absolutely.
And by this time I'm getting in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't choke a third time. Choked a third time. And it's just, I'm just like pleading, oh gosh, let me get out of here.
Yeah.
Scarred me for life.
Jeez.
So I never did
Did
anything
you
until,
manage to do it though? Did you actually do it in the end, or because it sounds like hell?
no, I never did. It,
No.
it finally the director was like, okay, thanks for trying. Sit down. And I was just crushed. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I've been
And you
terrified.
kind of, yeah, you don't want to put yourself back in that situation, do you?
Right.
Effectively. And
So
here
it
you are down the
so
line,
yeah,
putting yourself in that situation.
got up there on that podium, and I looked out, and for a while there, I was 17 again. I'm thinking, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, don't choke,
yeah.
don't choke.
I hope they don't want me to sing.
Yeah, please don't sing. But
Yeah, yeah,
and you'll hear about people that present, and they all talk about it's the exact same thing. Everybody gets up there and they're nervous and they're scared,
mm,
and the adrenaline's going, and they get that rush, and then you know you go into it, and you just dive into your presentation, and you give it, and you're done, and it's like a rush. It's like, yes, I did it. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's like, oh, okay, I want to do it again now.
yeah,
So
yeah. Let me put myself through that one more time.
yeah,
Yeah.
once
Where's the
after the
water?
adrenaline's gone and you've calmed back down, it's like, wait a minute, why did I just sign up to do another one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll do it all the time. Yeah. I'm yeah. I've told you before. I've told other people before. I cack it, brick it, whatever it is before every presentation. I'm just terrible. And I have all these things going on in my head going, these people aren't listening to you. It's really, really boring. They all know this. Why are you telling them this? They all know about 1910 and what the features are, and they're not interested. But then you find that people are, because they don't know all this, and people work in different areas, and it's of interest to them, and
Right.
then you walk away going, oh. I remember one guy coming up to me at the end of a presentation one time saying, "Oh, it's really, really good. I really enjoyed that, and some of the things that you've said there are going to be really useful for us, and we could implement some of this." And you think, Jesus, if somebody was listening. And then you, like you say, you sign up again and you go for it again. And then you
Right.
do go through the exact same feeling of, why am I doing this? Why am I stood in front of all these people? Uh,
Will they notice if I sneak out the door?
exactly. So, as I said earlier, we could potentially be presenting at MMS, and we're going to be coming on to kind of Rocky Four music. We've got all the robes and everything. We're going to have the fireworks and the flares going off, and then we're going to go, hello, we're here to talk about kiosks. And really, it's going to fall over at that point.
Everybody's gonna be like, that's it.
Is that it?
There's the fire pots and the explosions and the
Yeah. All that
kiosks.
build up, and you're talking about bloody kiosks. Yeah, let's move on to the next room. Yeah. But yeah, it's gut wrenching, isn't it, at times? So, and you've done it a few times since, haven't you? So you were at MMS, you presented there. I'm right in saying that.
Yes, I did present once at MMS last year.
Oh yes, you did. Yeah, with Kaido.
I know. Yep.
And didn't you get to press the button one time and release a config manager release into
Yes.
the wild?
Yeah.
God,
2 years ago. Yeah.
God, more than
I
I've
was
ever done.
Yeah, I was like sitting there at Aaron's laptop, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what happens if this crashes? Right, I'm going, my luck. I'm going to click the button,
Yeah,
and we're going to blue screen or something. I was like,
yeah, the Bill Gates moment.
yeah,
Or yeah,
please,
click format. Yes. Oh,
please
I've
don't
just
break Aaron's
wiped
laptop.
config manager. Oh my god, all the code's gone. Yeah. So which release was it then? Did you was it a TP or was it a current branch?
It was a technical preview. It was 1805.
Ah, well, it's only a TP. Don't worry about it,
Yeah,
mate. Yeah, they come around every month. We
yeah,
can't keep up with the cadence anyway, so we just do the next month's. No, it's okay. I think it's great. I think it's a lovely little claim to fame.
yeah. It was fun.
Didn't win the laptop, but you pressed the big button.
Yeah, no laptop winnings.
Nah, well, who knows? We can. Are we allowed to try and win them if we present?
I
Probably not.
I don't see why not. During
Oh,
the
okay.
like the tips and tricks thing at the end, I don't see why not.
Is that how we win them? Is it? Do we have to come up with a good tip?
Yeah, they have a session towards the end of the week where it's essentially it's an open mic. If you've got something that you want to share with everybody there, you can like step up to the mic and you have 5 minutes. You can show off a tool that you've created, a script you've written, something you've discovered, and you get a chance to win a laptop, like a Surface Book or something.
This is where we could do the starter.
Yeah. What you do is you start with a
Get
cup
a
of
bit of
flour,
flour.
some water, and you mix it all up, and presto, you
You've
got
got a
sourdough.
laptop. Oh, sorry, you got sourdough. Yeah. We're not here for the laptop, we're here to make bread.
Right.
Oh, well. Mike, I'll tell you what, it's been a real blast chatting. We've been chatting away, and very, very soon, my Alexa is going to tell me that my dough has either risen or failed. If this is plain flour or not, that I've actually put into the mix for tomorrow's bread. It's hopefully not TJ Hooker territory, because God knows what that's going to do to the family. Hopefully, it's plain flour. So
Right.
it's gonna beep any minute and
Now,
tell
did you
me.
get like second references for this test here, or was this first thing you found on Google? Oh yeah, you put it on your tongue, and turns out
It was
like some kind of prank.
tjhooker.com. Yeah, that was the. It's the definite test if to find out if that drug is cocaine is to just smear it all over your tongue. Yeah, it's cocaine.
What could go
Sorry,
wrong?
plain flour. It's plain flour. um, so it's due to beep any minute. It's almost 10 o'clock here in the UK PM, and it's been a real blast having a chat with
It's
you.
been
You're one of the good guys of the community.
Well, thank you. So it's been a blast.
It's been a blast, and hopefully people are going to be interested in us talking about bread and Def Leppard,
Bread and
big
Def
hair
Leppard.
and leather pants, leather trousers, not pants. Sorry. Um, but yeah, as I say, it's been a real pleasure, and run through where any of the listeners can catch you on the socials. It gives you Twitter handle, your website, etc.
Well, my Twitter is at Mike_Marable, Marable. I write on the SCCMF12twice.com blog, and that's where folks can find me.
Absolutely, and yeah, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we will get to present together
Yes,
sometime soon. We shall wait and see. But yeah,
with
it's been a blast, and yeah, thanks a lot for being a guest on episode 2
thank you
of
very much for
just
having me on board.
yeah, and we're just a
Great
couple
fun.
of jerks. Yeah,
That's
that's
us.
my little gag. Just a couple of jerks. We're just normal guys trying to make things work in IT, and we're trying to get our starters going for our bread.
We'll add that to our tagline at MMS.
Definitely, definitely. All
Just a
right,
couple
take
of
care of
jerks.
yourself.
You take
Just
care.
a couple of jerks. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, take care of yourself, Mike, and particularly in this climate, stay safe, keep yourself indoors, and do all the necessaries to make sure we don't get this god awful disease that's flying around.
Yes. Keep yourself safe.
Cool. Cheers.
Cheers.